Okay, new set with Neon Dynasty. I've seen a lot of content creators already made some really cool decks with sagas and all that stuff. Oh, I can't wait to make my first deck tech of this new season. What should I do? Should I do like zombie ninjas? Maybe zombie reconfigure? Maybe even Jeskai Warriors reconfigure? What should I do? What should I do? Wait a minute. I forgot. Hey Tibble,
Yes?
I did your task of making these deck techs. Where's the card I get rewarded for this?
Well then, I have a certain surprise for you.
Oh, the card changed. Tamiyo's Compleated Sage, eh? Is my reward?
Enjoy!
You are a very cruel individual. But, alas, for this episode of Brewing Labs, let's brew around Tamiyo Compleated Sage. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a completed, I guess is the best way to put it, episode of the Brewing Labs. Now, for this one, we're actually going to be brewing a deck that's basically a banned Superfriends list with a featured card, which is Tamiyo Compleated Sage. Now, originally, I was going to do either a Zombie Ninja deck or a Jeskai Reconfigure. But the more I thought about it, especially the factor that around the same time my new Top Deck Thoughts video was going to be coming out talking about the implications Tamiyo's completed, it just feels sense to make a deck rounder. So Tamiyo Compleated Sage, just a 5-mana legendary planeswalker that's also completed, which for those who don't know, it's essentially that little hybrid mana that's up there that essentially is Phyrexian hybrid mana, which I never thought I would see the day we seen that, but anyway. The basic catch-22 permits of the mechanic is that you can either spend this as a 5-mana planeswalker and get 5 loyalty, or you can spend it as a 4-mana planeswalker and pay the Phyrexian mana, aka 2 life, and then essentially let it come in as a 4-mana free loyalty planeswalker. Has a few cool activated abilities, +1, tap up to 1 target artifact or creature, it doesn't untap during its control's next untap step. Very good ability. -X, very powerful ability. Pretty much X out target non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card. That's essentially a reanimator spell for -X for any non-land permanents. That's very powerful. -7 is create Tamiyo's Notebook, as we see right here, which is a legendary colors artifact token with spells you cast cost 2 less to cast and tap it to draw a card. So for this deck, we're kind of taking advantage of making kind of like a bant, essentially, Superfriends list, more or less, because, well, Tamiyo's going to start trying to get out of Planeswalkers to be completed, so it kind of makes sense that we need to make a Superfriends list for it. Well, sadness just now got on this deck. Anyway, let's talk about the deck. In the 1-mana spot, it's Portable Hole, just a very good card in the meta at the moment, just being able to essentially remove any 1 or 2 drops. That's very relevant in this meta. A lot of people are playing kind of like aggro-based decks, so that's good in our 1-drop slot. Our 2-drop slot is our Mana Dork, which is the Root Coil Creeper. This is very nifty since it can help us essentially fix our mana and also ramp into some of our 4-mana spells that we have here. So, very good. Plus, also, we have 1 flashback spell, specifically Storm the Festival, so being able to use it to ramp to cast spells from the graveyard, aka this one, very powerful spell in this deck. We also are running the Reality Chip, since, well, this is more flavor than anything, but still, never underestimate the ability to be able to look at the top part of your library to plan out your plays. As well as if we can get this reconfigured onto a creature, we can play lands from the top of our library as well as spells. That's very powerful, so don't underrate that. In our free drop slot, we have Borrowed Time. Pretty much unconditional removal in this deck, and just being able to return it back with Tamiyo's Compleated Sage for just -3, very powerful. You kind of will notice that a majority of our removal in this is pretty much permanent removal, aka you pretty much play a permanent to remove something. That's mostly to brew around specifically Tamiyo Compleated Sage. Then we're running mirror bots. The main reason why here is because essentially the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents we control, so we could have multiple planeswalkers. We got 2 Wandering Emperors, we could have 2 Tamiyos. So the basic permanents here, or even 2 Eska Chariots. And then also it giving our legendary permanents a +1/+1 boost, aka making this a 5/5. Very nice in this meta to essentially make it very hard to block. Then we're also running the 2 Celestis. This is just a very, very powerful artifact in the meta. Helps us color fits, helps us ramp. And then essentially when we go through the day and night cycle, depending on how we play our turns, we get to draw cards as long as we don't mind discarding cards. Wow, that was a little bit of a jumble there. But yeah, so essentially it allows us to essentially discard a card if we need to draw into something, and then later down the line we can just play with Tamiyo's Compleated Sage. So then, next is the Wandering Emperor. Just very good unconditional removal, with her -2 being able to flash, as well as just being able to make our creatures bigger, as well as token generation. Very nice for this deck. We also are running Tezzeret Betrayer Flesh, mostly because we do have a lot of artifacts in this list, like Artifact, 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 Artifact. So we could use the +1 very efficiently just to essentially draw cards. We could use the -2 to make it into a creature, so being able to turn a Portable Hole into a 4/4 beater can be pretty powerful, though keep in mind it makes it more efficient to remove. So if you're like trying to remove, say, a Thalia with Portable Hole, maybe it's not the best idea to make it into a creature, but maybe you can make Mirror Bots into a creature. Making the Celestis in the creature is kind of hilarious, because then it becomes automatic 5/5 since it's legendary, which is kind of funny if you have Mirror Bots out. So there's stuff like that, and of course we get to the -6, that's very powerful. That allows us to essentially potentially draw a lot of cards with the artifacts that we have in our deck, like whether we tap Celestis, attack with Eska's Chariot, etc., etc. Also, one other thing, we could, even though I didn't put it into this list, you could run a few Treasure Vaults too when you get to the ultimate, to even being able to tap the Treasure Vault to draw a card. I don't really like it in this list, mostly because the purpose of the first activated ability, your artifacts cost 2 less to cast. That's a great static ability to help us reconfigure Reality Chip a lot more easier, or even do the Celestis activated ability for 1. The problem, though, is if you accidentally tap one of your artifact lands when you do it, it totally negates its ability, since, of course, it's the first activated ability, and when you tap a land for mana, that is considered an activated ability. Or, like, when you crew the Eska's Chariot, that is considered an activated ability. So, just be really cautious about that. If you are planning to take... First of all, I do think this card, I kind of underrated. This card is actually a lot better than I take it for granted. However, know kind of like the order you're going to do activated triggers, because that's going to be relevant, especially to get most value out of Betrayer Flesh. Which, I'm still mad that I put him in this deck since what he did for Tamiyo, but I digress. Eska's Chariot, this is just an auto-include in any deck with green, either as a playset, 3 of, or 2 of. This essentially allows us to essentially make cat tokens. That's nice. Being able to crew it and then make an additional copy of tokens that we have on the battlefield. That's nice. Especially with Tamiyo's minus ability, since we can create a token of target non-land permanent. So like, let's say we created a token of, say, the Wandering Emperor. We could Eska's Chariot crew, and then as long as Mirror Bots is on the battlefield, or even sometimes if not Mirror Bots on the battlefield, if we just want to refresh Wandering Emperor, we can create a token copy of the Wandering Emperor. So there's like little interactions like that. Then we go to our 5 slot. We already talked about Tamiyo. We're running Doomscar. Technically, you can consider this a free drop, but this is our board wipe in the deck. Just a very efficient board wipe. It allows us to essentially just remove very early game aggro builds, which is efficient. Then we're running one of the legendary Dragon Spirits, Cure of the Boundless Sky. I like this in this deck for a few reasons. One reason is that pretty much it's a flying Death Touch. It blocks a lot of the efficient flyers in the meta. But also, it is very nice with the death triggers, so essentially being able to search up free lands, reveal them, put them in your hand, and shuffle. That could help us mana fits later in the game if we need to like get into a Storm of the Festival or such. Or, most importantly, we're running the Channel lands, specifically 1 Igandro, Seed of the Empire, and 2 Boseiju, Who Endures. Running 2 of these because it's very good in the meta now, with especially a lot of enchantment matter decks running around and about. I'm even debating about putting this up to free. But the basic premise is we can actually use it to tutor the Channel lands, so we essentially tutor for efficient removal spells, which is very, very nice. And of course, making the Etsa's Green Spirit creature token, where Etsa's numbered lands you control, that's also very powerful because it can be copied with Eska's Chariot. Then we're also running Ren and 7. Ren and 7 just makes perfect sense in this deck as well, especially when you have Eska's Chariot. Just being able to mines free, create the Tree Folk token, and then essentially being able to copy with Eska's Chariot, being able to get lands, put cards into our graveyard that we can reanimate with Tamiyo Completed Sage, just makes perfect sense. Then we get to our late game drop slot. We have Storm the Festival in here. This allows us to get multiple permanents of either 5 or less onto the battlefield. Sometimes this will be lands, but sometimes it gets to be like multiple planeswalkers, Eska's Chariots, even some of our removal and such, so that's very, very good to have this efficient Storm the Festival as kind of like a late game spell. Then we have Jin Katatius. Still want to punch him. Anyway, but it makes sense to put him in this deck because, as stated before, we are running a lot of artifacts, so being able to copy those artifacts, very, very nice. And then also just it's a way to also protect our stuff, because when our opponent tries to cast a instant or sorcery spell or artifact spell, it gets automatically negated. So it makes sense to put this in a 1-up. And for one last little board wipe in here, since I feel like I have to say it to Tamiyo, farewell. You're never going to be the same again, Tamiyo. But Vorfo's flavor aside, this is just a very powerful board wipe, especially if we're playing white. Being able to exile either all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, or all graveyards can be very relevant depending on how we want to use this. This could be just the emergency switch, and sometimes it's just good to have the emergency switch. Plus, I do love the neon glow variation of this art. But yeah, we're not going to talk about the reason why I'm not using the other art, other than the factor that yeah, let's just leave it at that and just say that I don't agree with some of the politics of the original art of this piece. Or specifically just... Okay, just so that we can get the contents out of here. This is the original art. It's by Seb McKinnon. Seb McKinnon has some very controversial opinions that kind of make him not exactly one of my favorite artists anymore. He still makes cool art. This is pretty, but his politics... it's kind of gross. Okay, so that's why I'm definitely using this fairware. Other than besides the art's pretty good, so let's just get that one out of the way. Nevertheless, now we get to our land base, which is pretty much bant in the pathway cycles, as well as the... Essentially, we're running 4 Dreamroot Cascades, 4 Overgrowth Farmlands, and essentially with our pathways, it's almost a playset with the exception of 3 Hingegate pathways, so... That is the list. It's a little bit tricky because you do want to also try to throw these channel lands in here. And then, of course, we're running 1 plains and 1 island. And that is the deck. And let us just see how it does on the ladder. Shall we? Okay. First game with this. Let's see what we can do. Okay. It's a little bit of a slow hand. I would rather have one of my either early game removals or mana dorts, but the Celestis is nice. We have the Wandering Emperor here, we have Cure, we have Ramp. I'm going to give this a shot and just hope we don't go against a hyper aggro deck. So I'm going to play this tapped. Mostly the reason why I'm keeping this is because we're on the play. If we're not on the play, then I would probably not keep this. And it looks like we are going against like a counter aggro deck potentially, so... We're going to play our land. We're going to probably play the Celestis next turn, hoping that our opponent doesn't play a Thalia. This could be the Boros aggro counter deck that I've been seeing going about. So, there we go. Here, I'm probably going to get the Branch Loft Pathway here. That way we can get the ramp. There is also a world where we just hold up the Django Seat of the Empire. But I think the better play here is... Like, we have 2 Wandering Emperors, so basically next turn we could just cast a Wandering Emperor, remove one of the things with Exile removal. Or if we can take a few points of hits, we could just save up until essentially playing more or less playing... Okay, so yeah, this is definitely the variation of that. Yep. We'll take 5. Yeah, I think here we got choices. We could play Cure the Boundless Sky. That's probably the best play. We can block one of the things that they try to attack in with. Get the lands enough for the Farewell. We could also do a play where we just portable hole probably the Lizard Blades, because that can be the Scary Fiend. And then just use the Wandering Emperor to minus probably the Luminar Gatsford, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that is potentially the better play here. That way then the opponent sees a Planeswalker, they get scared, and then they will go straight for the Planeswalker, which negates a few points of damage to us. So that is probably the play here. And before they have any instant speed interaction, this just only doesn't get hexproof, just indestructible, right? Okay, so yeah, we're going to exile this, gain a little bit of life, negate a little bit of damage. That can help us save up for inevitably for a Farewell, essentially.
This is what you get for hurting my people.
Okay, that's a good card. So yeah, as suspected, they take out the Wanderer. Makes sense. Did they play anything else this turn? No, but we could just Doomskar here. Don't hate that, actually. Ba-doo! I don't remember any red mana spell that gives counters.
Hello? You just had the last two Brewing Labs.
We should be fine. They decide just to sack it to its own trigger just for the comedy. Makes sense. Okay, Goldspan Dragon. Yeah, that is going to be annoying to deal with. But on the other hand, I need to read how this works. Is it just death triggers? A crit creature dies, not exile. That is important here. So, get the Wanderer out again. Bye-bye, Goldspan Dragon. There we go. Wandering Emperor. Really good card. And I think we did just stabilize, which is good. So now we can draw. I think we don't need the Farewell anymore since our stabilizing was good. I probably will regret saying that. But we can now play Tamiyo. What did they do to you? Okay, so let's take a look. Here, actually, I think I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to actually -1 here, create the token. Then we're going to -4 here and make a completed Wanderer. Oh, cool. It's even with the nice borderless art, which actually I should probably apply that to this. Anyway, we're going to plus here and see what our opponent's response is to this. Gorogoro. Good card. Our opponents are in a bit of a weird circumstances because they could, well, they actually have vigilance, so they can efficiently attack. They're probably going to give Gorogoro haste and try to attack into something. I think? No, they don't. Well, in that case, let's do the combo here. Plus Tamiyo, the tap down Gorogoro. Well, it's not a combo, it's more of a synergy, but then use the Wandering Emperor's exile to target tap creature. Bye-bye, Goblin Friend. Then we are going to play Cure the Boundless Sky just to get value. And here we need another green source, and we'll just swing in for free. And I think we got this, presuming our opponent doesn't have a massive board wipe. Okay, I actually don't mind, because... Okay, do I want the lands, or do I want the token? I think I want the token. Though there is a temptation to pick up a Boseiju to remove the Sword of Realms, I'm not going to lie. I guess the way I look at it is we have a borrowed time here to do that. So now we're going to get this, give it first strike,
Show them how we
tap
do
this
the
down just for comedy purposes,
Such an imperfect form.
swing in for 7. Borrowed time, this, though, there is a world where that could have been the misplay, if I'm being legit honest with y'all. Ooh. Oh, dear. Okay, I'm guessing one of our planeswalkers is going bye-bye. Tamiyo? Makes sense. Well, on the bright side. And I guess we're gonna play Jin Katatsius, and our opponent's like, nope. Okay, first game success with this. So, yeah, we've seen some of the cool little interactions, and showed kind of like the power of Tamiyo's essentially being able to bring back any non-land permanent from your graveyard. So, on to the next game. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see what shenanigans we can do. Well, that's another greedy hand. Our opponent's going first, so we're not going first, so I think we gotta mulligan this. Okay, a lot better. We can hold on to the reality chip as a blocker. We got removal, so we'll throw Tamiyo into there because it might be a little too slow. I probably would have kept that if we had a mana dork. We did not, but... Okay, here, we're going to portable hold this before it becomes problematic. Next turn, we're going to play this on the blue side and play the reality chip. Though there is a world that this might get... Well... Yeah, we'll foretell this. We'll see if our opponent becomes silly and try to go all-out aggro. Usher the Fallen... Here, I'm actually going to play this. My logic being is we can chump block it, and essentially if our opponent tries to remove it with... Yeah, there we go. So yeah, purpose of this one is just jump blocking, which, perfectly fine. That's 3 less damage to our face, and allows us to efficiently do this. Here, we should probably get this on the Hinge Gate pathway and pass the turn. Tezzeret. Actually, I don't mind that.
Facing me, choosing progress is power.
Yeah, we can discard the reality chip here. And wow, that just... Okay, our opponent did not want us to To be fair, you do get to the point that once you get to value, you kind of get a little bit to a point where they're like, okay, I can't beat the value, and I'm guessing that's just what happened there. Nevertheless, thank you, Tezzeret? That's a phrase I thought I was never going to say.
What can I say but you're welcome?
Okay, we're playing a Blast from the Past. Somebody who appreciates unsets. I can respect that. Editor, can you put Blast from the Past on screen just to show people context of why I understand the joke that username? Thank you. Anyway, this hand, pretty good keep. We got a turn 2 mana dork. We can just even hold it up for the Wanderer. That's good. We're first going to play an island first. See what our opponent plays here. Okay, here we're going to play the Mana Dork. I'm going to guess we're going against Clerics. With that being the case, I think it's actually better to actually pay the Phyrexian mana for this and get it out as soon as possible.
Go. Share the story of Phyrexia with your people. Our will cannot be denied.
Mostly because then we can just tap down whatever they're wanting to tap down. There is also the possibility that they could remove Tamiyo. Okay, I think our opponent was trying to remove Tamiyo, but they forgot that Tamiyo is technically a 5 mana burn minute. Even though we spent 4 mana on it, it does not work. Okay. And the best part is, we can actually... Boop.
You cannot delay our victory.
Wanderer?
Anyone who harms my people must contend with me. You're done.
And we just get ourselves a little 2/2. Okay, there's the proper removal. I'm guessing bye-bye Tamiyo? Yep.
A minor setback, but victory is inevitable.
So, if we don't play any enchant... Oh, wait, we got Boseiju. What am I saying? Boseiju? This is such a good card.
The future is written in oil and steel.
Our opponent's now going to go get a basic of their choice. Here, we're just going to go plus here. We're going to plus, even though...
Bow before Phyrexia.
Ooh! Enchantment shenanigans, eh? Okay, I think now we're just out in the game of... Plussing this, plussing this...
Our will cannot be denied.
And I might just ultimate Tamiyo next turn, presuming Tamiyo doesn't get removed. Because getting the card draw as well as the discount on our spells is going to be very, very nifty. Oh dear. Yeah, we're going to do that now.
You cannot unwrite what has been written. Every story leads to the rise of Phyrexia.
And honestly, I think here we just want to exile creatures. Bye-bye Tamiyo, and now bye-bye all creatures. Plus, the reason why I did that is because it also negated their little, scary card advantage.
Let your blade do the talking.
Just a few portable holes, which will be very efficient once they start casting more enchantments, essentially. Hey, mirror bots. Nice. We're gonna draw, see what we
Remember
get.
your training.
Now we're gonna activate Storm the Festival. Hey, we could actually play the Wanderer, and... That's funny.
I have suffered and toiled. I am owed victory.
Show them we greet our enemies.
We're gonna draw. Discard this. We're gonna play this on green. We're gonna face Seiju, the Hallowed Haunty. This reminds me of the day of Spark Double, having two of the same Planeswalker. Oh, and that was a good removal there, because they were going to get a lot of potential spirits, so that was a good play. Anyway, we're going to activate this. Yeah, portable hole. Say bye-bye. Then plus.
Strike fast and strike hard. I have got new moves to
-2. Swing in for 10. Play here at the Boundless Sky, just in case of our opponent top deck's a board wipe. Good game, opponent. Woohoo! That was a lot of value. A lot. Also, funny note here, we could have also made Tamiyo's Notebook into a 5/5 creature due to Mirror Gallery's ability on legendary creatures, so fun thing to note there. But nevertheless, it was definitely getting two Planeswalkers of the same type. Reminds me of the Spark Double days, so it's definitely a blast from the past. And that is Bant Superfriends with Tamiyo Compleated Sage. Overall, this deck actually did very well on ladder, been having fun with it. If there's really upgrades I would recommend for the deck, some cards I would recommend if you want to go with the flavor win, you could probably throw in one Vorinclex Monstrous Raider because, well, you know, Praetors, completion, you know. But also is very synergistic to the deck because we do have a lot of Planeswalkers and being able to get them into ultimate range a lot more quicker. Very, very nice. Other than that, there's also other artifacts you can put into this list as well. Like one of my favorite little artifacts is the Reckoner Bankbuster. Just a very good little artifact creature that can be card draw. Essentially, it's a Maze Mind Tome that hits. Very powerful card, so you could definitely throw that into the list just to get that, plus also being able to, with -2, make this automatically into a 4/4 without having to crew it. Very, very nice. So there's stuff like that. Other than that, maybe you could put in an additional Farewell, hopefully with alternate art that's not from an artist that is a bit of a butthole, but I digress. For the record, I mean the original art of this. The alternate art of this is cute as heck, and I do like the artist's take on this, so just clarify there. Other than that, maybe a few little bit of ramp options, like Prosperous Innkeeper, maybe even some Manlands, even though making free colorless is a little bit tricky with all the Pathway, as well as Chill Lands in the meta. And that is my take on Tamiyo's Compleated Sage Superfriends. I'll have fun playing with you, Tamiyo Compleated Sage, but I am still sad. Rest in peace, Tamiyo. You will never be the same. Anyway, hope you all have a lovely day. This is LevDev, signing out.